In ancient Jain texts, there is a story about six blind men touching an elephant and trying to guess what they're touching. So one of them touches the trunk and says, I think this is a snake. Another one touches the foot of the elephant and says, I think this is a pillar. And then another one of them touches the tail and says, I think this is a broom. And in some ways, they're all right, but they're also all wrong. And this is the concept of Anekantavada, which is the doctrine of many sidedness. It teaches us that reality is too complex to be seen from just one angle, and that to find the truth, you have to look through many different eyes or angles. And so, for this project, that is what I've tried to do. I wanted to see Jainism through the lived reality of the people around me. Um, so, yeah, I spoke to five different people: the outsider, the observer, the believer, the skeptic, and the atheist. Five people, five different realities, one truth. So I'm doing a project on Jainism. Before I tell you anything about it, tell me honestly, what do you know of Jainism? Have you ever heard of it?
Yeah, so I have heard of it before in school when I was, I think in seventh or eighth grade. We had a history chapter on it, and we kind of learned Jainism and Buddhism together in our school. So that was one thing, and pretty much that's all I know about it. Mostly, just in terms of it's a religion. There's monks, and they're pretty strict about their rules and stuff. For example, they don't eat non-veg, or they're restricted to certain veg foods as well.
Yeah.
And
Okay.
yeah, that's about it.
Nice. Fine. Okay, so you have heard of Jainism. Now tell me what specific rumors, stereotypes, or facts do you know about Jainism?
And yeah, so basically, I've heard that they don't eat onions, which has been like a running joke for a while, that Jains don't eat onions. And other than that, I'm sick. So in my religion, eating like non-veg food, drinking, all these things are encouraged. And basically, yeah, it was kind of odd to see that Jainism is so much on the other side of the spectrum. The fact that even the monks actively restrict themselves and they kind of suffer on purpose, which I didn't really. It feels a bit extreme. So that was one thing that I have noticed before.
Nice. Yeah, that is pretty much the essence of Jainism. It is pretty much based on suffering and sacrifice with the goal of attaining moksha, which is enlightenment. It's extremely hard to not have non-veg and to only have food once a day and stuff. So yeah, I think maybe I don't believe in Jainism either and their practices, but I do have respect for them. And hopefully this interview also gave you a new lens on Jainism.
It does. It does.
Nice. So, although you are a Hindu, what impressions of Jainism do you have? And did you grow up around Jain temples or people?
Actually, I used to live in a small town, Saharanpur, luckily in which we had a lot of communities. We used to live on a junction of three roads. So on one side, the Hindus used to live. On the one road used to lead to the Muslim-dominated area, and the third route, mohalla called Badtala. A lot of Jains used to live there, and there was something which used to impress me, like our house was a four-storied house, and from the balcony I could see a lot. So I could see a lot of processions going for Muslims, Hindus, and Jainism. But there was something different about the Jain procession. The Muni who used to walk in front and a lot of disciples around him, and he did not wear any clothes, and that I used to sometime, when I was a child, I used to sometimes find it funny. But later, my mother explained that the real meaning of that is that he has given away everything, all material things in his life, and this sacrifice impresses the disciples, and so they are trying to gain his blessings. So when the procession was going on, those disciples used to broom the floor. So this also I found very awkward, because the Hindu processions this never used to happen. So I asked my mother, and she told that they are brooming so that when he walks, no insect is killed. So that was like something really uh, powerful for me. So this lean, meek monk walking in front and so many people behind him, I used to find very different from Hindu processions in which the Hindu gods were like big and bright, and then the people. Earlier, I could not understand, but later my mother explained this, and slowly I also understood the meaning of sacrifice. So this was very, very impressive.
Okay. And what other specific rituals or practices did you see from the Jain community that stood out to you?
Once I saw when these munis, few munis came to our place for bhiksha. So I thought that it is like they are asking for donation or something. But when my mother went and gave them food, they opened their palms, and whatever they could take in their palms, that was all they were eating, and no plate, no utensils. And that too, I was shocked when I heard that they only have food once a day.
Hmm.
So with this was so different. Like in our Hindu temples, even our priests and all, they used to hog the laddus and food and puris and whatnot, and this was absolutely opposite of that. Even in our Hinduism, we used to feed idols with laddus and foods and milk and ghee, and this was absolutely opposite. So the monk, after eating, my mother used to feel blessed that these munis chose our house for this. And a very, uh, you can say a marked thing on my mind is that when my neighbor was giving food to these monks, a dog barked at him, and the food fell off from his hand. And the neighbor went again because it was a small quantity, so he went again so that he can give the monk again. He refused. He said, I will come next evening. Till then, it means he'll stay hungry for 2 days in a row. So this was like the practice which made me feel so little of my desires and needs, and how these people can sacrifice so much so that they can make an example, inspire people. And yes, it inspired me.
And you have mentioned a lot of differences between Hinduism and Jainism now, from your experiences. How did you interpret those differences?
Hinduism, I find very dilute and a non-strict type of a religion.
Non-strict.
Yes.
Hmm.
I find some religions in which they don't accept few things, and which is right, which saves like the followers from lot of bad things. Like smoking is totally banned in Sikhs, which is very good, and alcohol in for Muslims, and leather and non-veg and ahimsa for Jains. I used to see how Jains used to practice ahimsa in small things. Used to reflect, like even my friends in school, they never used leather belt or leather shoes, and I used to ask them. Then they explained me that leather comes when an animal is killed. So I understood, yes. So these small things make a big difference. They their discipline, their and how sacrifice is done, that was the take of Jainism on me.
Can you paint a picture of what a typical week looks like in your house regarding religion? Was it ritual heavy?
It's not too ritual heavy. We follow, like, we just do diya in the morning and in the evening. So my dad lights a diya in our mandir. Yeah, it's not much more than that. It depends on the day. If there's like Navratri, there's more. But yeah, on the daily basis, nothing else.
At what age did you start feeling like you wanted to make different choices than your parents regarding these practices?
I think around 22, 21 or 22, I started eating non-veg just because I was not living at home and I found it very difficult to keep myself full, and that's why I started. And I continue it now. So yeah.
And was that choice based on just convenience, or was it also a philosophical disagreement with the religion?
It was out of convenience. I don't disagree with what Jainism says. I think like it makes sense. And I wouldn't want to. I think I don't disagree basically.
And how do you define your relationship with Jainism now?
I honestly do not follow very many rituals. My parents are way more like ritualistic in general. So my relationship is that I just do agree with a lot of the things they say, especially like non-violence and just like in general a lot of the norms they have about like peace and everything. But yeah, I'm not very heavy on following religion.
I know you consider yourself spiritual but not religious. Can you briefly define what spirituality means to you personally?
I think for me, spirituality is just thinking that, or being open to the possibility that there is something larger that I am unable to make sense of, that is very abstract, but not confined within practices or a set of rules in the way that, religion is, in terms of exploring what that higher power is. And also, sometimes believing in energies or so I think just some sort of belief that perhaps there is something greater out there.
And you mentioned that you have a friend who is Jain. Have you two ever discussed their beliefs and what parts of their life seem religious to you?
I do have a friend who's Jain. We discuss her beliefs a lot, especially with the way she comes from a very observant Jain family. So they do a lot of fasting, they do a lot of pilgrimages. So I think a lot of it has been driven by curiosity on my part as well, because the way that she lives her life is very different than mine. What was the second part of your question?
What parts of their life seem religious to you? Yeah.
So I think all of these things, the adherence to certain rules, to doing some of these pilgrimages, and organizing her life around accommodating for a few of these dates that are determined by, like followers of their sect and stuff like that. I think that reorganization of your life around this very central religious principle feels very religious to me, like that sort of observance.
And as you're an atheist, I guess usually religions with creator gods are harder to accept. But Jainism is atheistic in the sense that there is no creator god. And I guess my question to you is that does that make it more appealing or logical to you as a religion?
The theory of it feels logical to me, and I think it's something I'm curious about and want to know more about. And whenever I have read excerpts about how Jain philosophy, approaches things like death or non-violence or freedom, it resonates deeply. But I think that I think part of the reason that the restrictions feel like a lot more palpable and are what I think about sometimes when I think about Jainism is that I think the day-to-day practice of Jainism has a lot to do with those rules and restrictions. And I know that the philosophy and thinking about it is something that is encouraged deeply, but I think it's shrouded in a lot of do's and don'ts, which I feel are very constricting and could be limiting.
And then from what you see of your friend, do you think their Jain practices make them a better person? Or do you view the rules as unnecessary restrictions?
I think some of them, they do feel to me like they make her a better person, right? Because I do think she takes the theory of it very seriously as well and thinks hard about it. So, for example, I don't know the specifics of it, but there is there's a particular day that is, or a particular period of the year that is very focused on forgiveness.
Okay.
And I think you have to fast as well. And that she takes very, very seriously and takes that time to think very hard about all of the people who she does want to forgive and very seriously like reflects. And I think it it makes her a better person in the way that it makes her think harder about whoever she's interacted with, all of the things that, she wants to apologize to others for, and what she's letting go of in a very conscious way, which I think is a positive way. And I think if you do it the way that it's probably meant to be done, or make it your own thing, it can be like a really like self-actualizing way to live a life, and make you a better person, right?
So you are a practicing Jain. How do you manage in college?
Jai Janendra. So, firstly, I would say I'm not a perfect Jan, but I do whatever is in my control. Like, I'll check the bag of chips to see if they have egg powder or any additives which don't adhere with Jainism. So it always, I make it a practice and take the extra effort to check that. However, I do uh, not like eat before sunset and all of that stuff because of late classes. But all I do in my capacity is avoid root vegetables and non-vegetarian food, which helps me stay connected to Jainism.
Nice. And is it awkward being that picky eater?
I don't think so. It's only awkward if you make it awkward. So, for example, like if I go to a steakhouse, my friends will be ordering the regular stuff, but I'll be content with a salad. It's all about having, that self-belief to stick to what you believe in, and having open-minded people around you who respect your beliefs.
Nice. That sounds tough, but also respect. And I guess my last question to you is, why do you think these Jain beliefs of yours are relevant to our generation?
Yeah, I think it's the most relevant to our generation, in a generation filled with people who struggle with anxiety, obesity, and other social and mental issues. I think Jainism preaches the principle of non-attachment, which is really important in this world, which is becoming more and more overwhelming. It helps people like me, the youth, stay grounded and sane, which is a powerful tool to focus on your academics and also maintaining a strict regime in life.